Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Hugh live inside the Beltway for the last time for a couple of months at least. Well, I'll be back in the middle of the heat wave. Fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I turn north, head up to the northern border, and we will range from the Atlantic coast all the way over to Ohio. I won't break the treaty and go into Michigan. I have no intention to break the treaty and go into Michigan, but someone's got to keep an eye on the Canadians.
Don't wreck our show, you hoser.
And we're not going to let you in. No, we are not. I told Russ and Aaron, I am not going to. I'm going to keep the Canadians at bay. I'm afraid they're going to bring Trudeauism with them, in which case incoherence will overwhelm the country. It's already overwhelmed the country. Good Friday to you. I will be speaking to you next. I think Ed Morrissey is in for me Monday and Tuesday because consolidated communications is proving difficult to get to connect the fiber optic to the border. I'm king of the North. That's what, when I'm not the Ted Lasso of talk radio, I'm king of the North. And during the summer, I don't stay here. I'm going downtown today, and the soles of my feet stick to the pavement. You got to be nuts to stay in the Beltway after June 15th, but that's just me. Jason Kokrak is one off the lead. No, he's one under and three off the lead in the U.S. Open at the golf club. Oh, those people in Boston, the way they name things, the golf club. Gosh, if you got to win the U.S. Open, I hope you don't win it in Boston. I have the Patriots go 0-17. The Celtics never, the Warriors beat the Celtics, so that means a bad team beat a worse team. And the Red Sox fans drive me crazy. So that part of the Northern Boundary Tour will be bad. But I will have power by Thursday at the latest, and Ed Morris will be in for me. The news yesterday is the news as it was all week. The economy sucks because Joe Biden is president. Recession fears grow as Dow closes below 30,000 and mortgage rates spike. That is the headline in the Washington Post. So the second headline, Fed's full tilt inflation fight makes a softish landing harder to achieve. The already slim odds, writes the Financial Times' Colby Smith in Washington, D.C., of the Federal Reserve bringing down inflation without causing a painful economic downturn took another leg lower on Wednesday as the U.S. Central Bank embraced what is said to be the most aggressive campaign to tighten monetary policy in decades. And that led to the Dow going down 741 points to close at 2992. That's below 30,000. It was never below 30,000, I don't think, under Trump. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. The S&P was off 3%. The NASDAQ was off 4%. Now, I think it's hit bottom for the tech stocks. I think Amazon announced it's doing its Prime Days in July, thank goodness, because that means the year-over-year comparisons will get back to normal. It'll mean a bad Q3, but I'm an investor. I'm not a speculator. Investors don't care. They know that Amazon's going to do well. They know that if you buy certain stocks like Procter & Gamble, they're never going to go bust. GM went bust, and so my theory of buy GM and you won't go bust, that was because it was a car company once, and then it became a pension company that produced its benefits by selling cars, and the cars weren't very good. But most big cap companies don't go bust. So, you can buy energy companies, you can buy Amazon. Not too sure about Google and Tesla. Not too sure. I'm not an investor, advisor. I just do my own thing. And my own thing is buy what you know. Don't buy stuff you don't understand. Nobody understands crypto. Don't buy crypto. Bank of England warns inflation will hit 11% in Great Britain. They haven't come to that realism yet in the United States where they continue to say, oh, don't worry about it, 8%, 7%, it'll drop, transitory. No, it's not. Bill Gates says NFTs and crypto are 100% based on the greater fool theory. Now, Generalissimo, are you familiar with the greater fool theory?
The greater what theory?
The greater fool theory.
No.
The greater fool theory is that no matter what you pay for something, there'll be a greater fool around who will pay more for it.
Oh, I've seen that in action the last couple of weeks, haven't I?
Yeah, we have. We know the greater fool theory. Actually, it's a true theory. Bill Gates believes in it. That's why I think I've said, can we get a montage someday of how many times I told people not to buy crypto on this show? It goes back at least 5 years. And what did I say? Don't buy what you don't understand. So unless you can sit down and explain to me how blockchain currency replaces a reserve currency, don't buy it. But in any event, and non-fungible tokens, that to me was the tulip bulb thing. If you study the history of economics, Arthur Brooks, Westbury, they all begin with the tulip bulb thing. That's when there was a market bubble in tulip bulbs. And this is not what's happening with houses, by the way. They ain't making any more houses, and people got to live somewhere. And I'm going to go off to with my first decent amount of asset rotation to Key City Capital and plop down some money because they're building apartment buildings. You know what? People got to live somewhere, and they're not going to be able to afford a house because houses are not coming down, unlike previous recessions. They're going up. European leaders back Ukraine's bid for the EU membership, which is great. It's a sign of solidarity. Send them ammo. Pass the ammo. Elon Musk had a great call with Twitter employees. I mean, it was just so. Elon Musk is funny. He said, look, you got to get healthy. We have to have a rationalization of the head count, meaning that they have way too many woke employees working there saying stupid things. And they got to get down to people who want to come to business and use Twitter not as a blue bubble. I'm not sure it's going to work. He talked about remote work. That's over. You got to come to work. And we're not going to be censoring people other than for threats of violence. I mean, Elon Musk knows how to make Twitter great again, make Twitter get great again. And those of us who are hanging on because it was once fun and now it's just being yelled at by nutters. Crypto hedge fund Three Arrows fails to meet lender margin calls. In every economic crisis, in the 30 years that I broadcast, somebody doesn't make a margin call. That's 2008. It was Smith Barney. Back in the dot-com bubble days, it was a number of people that had borrowed too much money. There's always a group of people that are the canaries in the mine. This time around, it's Bitcoin, and the people who process Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be worth something. It'll be worth $1 at the end. I mean, it's worth $23,000. But I keep thinking back to the professional football player who said, pay me in Bitcoin. Right there. That made a lot of sense. Newt Gingrich said this last night, cut 27.
I would say, first of all, what you're seeing is a classic refight of what Reagan and Carter went through, and to some extent, what we've been through in the recent past. Those of us who believe in supply side economics, like Larry Kudlow, we understand that what you want to do is increase the supply of goods and services to mop up the inflation by giving people more things to buy. On the left, they believe in a demand side approach that says, in order to stop inflation, we have to crush demand. And to crush demand means people can't afford a house, they can't afford gasoline, they can't afford food. Go down the list. So what you have with this.
So what world is Joe Biden living in? The Jimmy Carter world, with less acuity. I'll be right back, Americans. Friday, June the 17th, in the year of our Lord 2022. I'm Hugh Hewitt inside the Beltway, about to head for the Canadian border. Stay tuned. That music, America, means that I, Hugh Hewitt, am joined by Sonny Bunch, official movie critic of the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm not sure he's seen The Bad Guys, Joe Pickett, or Downton Abbey 8.0. What have you been seeing, Sonny Bunch?
Well, you had mentioned wanting to talk a little bit about We Own This City, the HBO series.
Yes! I read your review, and I loved your review. Tell people what you think of it.
Well, so We Own This City is by David Simon and George Pelecanos, who, of course, David Simon was the creator of The Wire. George Pelecanos wrote a bunch of episodes on The Wire. And We Own This City is, in many ways, it feels like a follow-up and also a response to The Wire. And here's what I mean by that. So We Own the City is a real-life story about the gun trace task force in Baltimore. It was a elite police unit that teamed with the federal government to get guns off the street, guns and drugs off the street, right? But mostly guns. But it was horribly corrupt. I mean, the cops on the unit were stealing from the people that they were stopping and frisking. They were, just committing all manner of theft. And one of the guys, the guy in charge, Wayne Jenkins, I'm sorry, was who was played in this by John Bernthal, the great John Bernthal, was stealing drugs as well and selling them on the street. So it's a story of police corruption, right?
It's a real story. It's a true story.
True story. Absolutely. It's an absolute true story. And, as a result, it has some of the problems that all true stories have when you try to dramatize them, which is that there are some loose ends. There are some dramatic failings, but on the whole, it's a very good show.
Can I tell you my two favorite parts, Sonny, which is the union boss the police union boss, who is from The Wire, makes a return, plays a very realistic police union official. And then they manage to slip in a police commissioner who is somewhat sympathetic, who's inherited this myth, as well as corrupt mayors, because that's Baltimore in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this is the thing about the show, is that it's pretty damning of everyone involved, not just the cops, of course, but also, I mean, look, the scene that you mentioned with the union officials, right? It is almost darkly hilarious.
Yes, it is.
There's a Fed who is interviewing them and says, look, let's real talk here for a second. Is there anything a cop could do that would get you to say that they, should be removed from their job? And the guy who is played by the guy who was on The Wire, who plays Derek Lombardarzi, whatever his name is says, yes, of course, there's something. And then she follows that up with, have you ever done that? And they're silently smiling because that's not their job, right?
That's not their job. No.
But then you have the mayors who, quit in the middle of the crises, and then another who was, of course, arrested. Who was that? That was Catherine Pugh.
I don't know. Their mayors have been so bad for so long. My first Meet the Press show was next to a Baltimore mayor who ended up behind bars, I think. But go ahead. Yeah.
So anyway, the show is very, very good, but it does feel, in a way, a bit like a response to The Wire, in that it is much more didactic than The Wire in sitting down and saying, look, the problem with all of this, the root cause of all this, is the drug war. There's literally a character, he's played by Treat Williams, who he plays a cop in the academy who teaches other cops about Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights. And he says, look, the root problem here is the drug war. If you don't stop the drug war, all of this is going to keep happening. And we can talk about the usefulness of the drug war and whether or not it should continue, et cetera, et cetera. I'm probably lean more towards the drug war is not a total failure, but it does have, bad sides that need to be.
I lean more towards, I don't know what we're going to do about fentanyl, but we better do something in a hurry because it killed 100,000 people. But Sonny, David Simon and I have some history. It's not relevant, but generally speaking, I thought this was penance for The Wire and cultural appropriation. David Simon shoring up his cred with the left. That's what I thought.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I do think that it was. I mean, I think it's as I said, I think it's a response to The Wire in the sense that The Wire. People talk about The Wire, especially people on the left, and they say, "Oh, The Wire, one of the best shows on television, one of the best shows ever made." It shows the horrible plight of the inner city, blah blah blah. And this show is explicitly about a young and naive Obama era Fed who basically is taught that all of the people who have said, The Wire is so great, have done nothing to actually make any of the changes that The Wire suggests.
And I want to add all the shots at Trump. That's David Simon curating his anti-Trumpism with his buddies in Hollywood so they know he's anti-Trump. And by the way, I don't think anyone quit the Civil Rights Division. And maybe one or two people did. You'd have to compare it to previous presidents. Lifers at justice don't quit because new presidents come in. It's just all nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably true. But it's a good show. People should check it out. It's on HBO Max. It's only 6 episodes long, so it's pretty quick.
It's a good show. Now tell us about Jurassic World, because my friend Glenn fell asleep in it, which I cannot believe.
It's bad, Hugh. I don't blame
Is it really?
It's very, very bad. I mean, look, these movies are very popular for whatever reason. This movie grossed, $140 million opening weekend. It's got an A- from Cinema Score. Folks love it. And who am I to judge the folks for loving this bad movie? But it is a bad movie. I mean, it's dumb. It's incredibly dumb. The whole plot of the film is it is an excuse to get the folks from the original Jurassic Park film together with the folks from this Jurassic World series. So you've got Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum showing up to hang out with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and it's just the whole thing. The whole plot again revolves around a biotech company that has created a giant dinosaur-inflected locust to ravage the crops of Middle America and the rest of the world in order to sell seed. You know, it's like Monsanto. If you had an environmental activist gave them the keys to the Jurassic Park series and we're like, all right, now make Monsanto a villain. That's what this would look like. It's very like the plot. Set aside that. The plot of this film it basically picks up right where the last one left off. Dinosaurs are now all over the world. They're basically interacting with the food chain, and this leads to, you know, kind of interesting things like dinosaur black markets, because there's this biosyn company, the evil Monsanto, is basically it has the rights to all of these dinosaurs. The government has said that they can collect them all and take them to a preserve somewhere, but people are still trying to sell them on the black market to folks who want, who wouldn't want a terribly dangerous raptor to buy and hunt their enemies with. This movie has laser guided raptors, Hugh. It has laser guided raptors. I can't even explain to you how
the writer's room was doing drugs. I got to tell you about the bad guys. All right, the bad guys. I've got an 8-year-old grandson, and introduced me to the bad guys at 7. And I read a 7-year-old's book to him at bedtime, and I laughed out loud. And so an adult is laughing out loud, and no doubt it was going to be successful. And now it's a movie, and it's funny, Sonny, and it's at 2 levels. And I tried to explain 2-level movie to an 8-year-old, which is, movies with adult jokes. Like I'm going full Clooney here, and he has no idea what it means to go full Clooney when Wolf goes full Clooney when George Clooney played Mr. Fox back in the day. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't, I'd heard pretty mixed things. Did you enjoy it then?
I laughed. I actually laughed. Now it's about 10 minutes too long, as every children's movie is, because they're afraid of shortchanging the parents who just wanted an hour and a half nap, right? So they don't want to shortchange. They made it an hour and 40 minutes, and they could have taken. But you know what? Good for them. Tell me, have you watched Joe Pickett? Which is the thing I really want to say. I don't know if you subscribe to Paramount Plus.
I don't subscribe to Paramount Plus. It's like the one streaming service I don't have.
Joe Pickett is a throwback to Bonanza days, only with modern production values and abilities and characters who are more interesting and villains who are more menacing. And it's just lovely. It's beautifully shot in, of course, Alberta, Canada.
Well, everything is shot in Alberta.
Why is that, Sonny? Why does Alberta, Canada have incentives that Wyoming and Montana doesn't?
Well, it's just cheaper to shoot. It's cheaper to shoot up in Canada because it's cheaper production-wise. I mean, you just have less to deal with in terms of costs. Unions are cheaper. Everything is basically cheaper.
How do you get over the language barrier?
Well, there's not I mean, it's so much cheaper. It's because they have created a kind of shadow Hollywood up there. So they have the infrastructure to do all of the things that you can do in Los Angeles and Hollywood, right? With, they have special effects shops, they have extras houses, et cetera, et cetera. But it costs a third as much as it does.
Wow.
To shoot
Warren JFK graduate Chris Columbus now lives in Toronto. That told me a lot. Chris was a couple of years behind me at my Catholic high school, and he lives in Toronto. That means you've lost the war. When all of your Hollywood directors who could make anything they want have moved to Toronto, you've lost the war.
Well, it's better than China, that's for sure. I mean, there are stories about directors who have basically stopped working in Hollywood and then moved out to China and helped them build their film industry. 1 minute. 1 minute,
Sonny.
Problem.
Lightyear. I just found out Tim Allen isn't Buzz Lightyear. I'm pissed. I'm not seeing it. Number 2, they've included material that normally, it wouldn't offend me in the least, but it does have 17 countries saying you can't show it. What do shareholders think about this?
Yeah, it's interesting. So Lightyear, you're talking about the gay kiss controversy.
Yes.
It's not even actually, there is no gay kiss, I don't think. Maybe a very chaste one on the cheek. What do the shareholders think? I mean, Hugh, that's a great question. And I don't know. I mean, look, on the one hand, I would rather Disney not change what they make to make authoritarian nations in the Arab world and in China happy. I can kind of understand some of the worries from parents. I mean, look, I'm a Dick Cheney Republican, so I've been in favor of gay marriage for longer than Obama, right? So I like it.
Me too, but that doesn't go to shareholder value. Sonny, next week we'll talk about that because I got to talk about ReliefFactor.com. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, joined by Dr. Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the United States. Dr. Oren was also deputy minister in a Netanyahu government. He joins me this morning. He was flying yesterday. Dr. Oren, the story in the New York Times this morning. Fears grow over Iran's nuclear program as Tehran digs a new tunnel network. At the same time, the government in Israel is falling apart. I mean, literally, it could be over by right now. We don't know. What do you think about the former? What will a new government, if the latter falls apart, do about it?
Well, whatever you do, I hope they're going to do it quickly, Hugh. It's good to be back with you. If I were an Ayatollah at this point, I'd think seriously about running forward and creating a nuclear weapon. And the reason is, not much strength in the White House. Israeli government falling apart. The world attention is focused on Ukraine. It's an ideal situation. It's a perfect storm. And for the Iranians, that's their opportunity. And so I'm deeply concerned. I'm deeply concerned about the coming weeks, even days, as Iran continues not just to dig down, but also to race forward and enrich uranium in greater quantities and at a higher level of enrichment.
So, Michael, if Israel determined to go it alone, screw the bumbler in the White House, we're going to do what we have to do to not be North Korea's neighbor for the next 2,000 years, and they attack Iran, can they effectively stop the program like they did Saddam's in '83? It's 40 years later.
Well, the answer is yes and no. I think Israel effectively stopped the program, but not the way we stopped the Iraqi program in 1981, not the way we stopped the Syrian program in 2007. Those were both one-shot deals. They were a single facility that was above ground. Iran's nuclear program is an archipelago. It's many facilities, some of which are deeply underground. Part of the Natanz facility is underground, but the Fordow facility is under a mountain. And Iran is a much bigger country, and it's much further away. So just tactically, it is a vastly more complicated operation. And I just want to remind your listeners that Israel, for all of its prowess militarily, does not have strategic bombers. We don't have B-52s. We certainly don't have B-1s, B-2s that can make that trip and carry a 50,000-pound bomb. We have fighter bombers that have to be refueled in midair, and they carry a much smaller payload.
Do the allies in the Arab world that Israel accumulated under Donald Trump and continue to accumulate under President Biden, I hope, with this trip to Saudi Arabia, would they support either verbally or with assistance any attack on Iran?
Well, certainly it's supported implicitly, and maybe behind the scenes they'll provide other means of support. I think the basic support they can provide is their proximity. They're a lot closer to Iran than we are, and intelligence they could provide. But at the end of the day, we're pretty much going to have to do this on our own. I believe we have the ability to do it on our own. It's not the abilities of the United States of America, but we are not, shorn of capabilities. We have them. We have the ability to defend ourselves, and we will. I hope that this government can cohere long enough and have the legitimacy to make this decision, because, it's different if you're in a dictatorship. If you're a democracy, the government has to make a decision that's going to affect the lives and the survival of a great number of citizens. They're going to be mothers and fathers who come to this government and said, who empowered you? Who elected you to send my son off to battle?
I spoke to an Israeli mayor this week of Ehart. I can't remember. His name is Ovid. And he said, look, they can make a government out of this current Knesset. Everyone, Saar has to swallow his pride. Bennett has to take number 2. They can do this. They can get a conservative government.
They can.
And you've said that many times.
They don't have to go to elections. Yeah, they don't have to go to elections. I've seen Netanyahu about twice in the last week and a half. He was very upbeat, as you can imagine. He senses that he's coming back. Running through my head is a paraphrase of an old song. Bibi's back and you're going to be in trouble. And
for Iran, yes.
We're the same generation, you and me, Hugh.
Yeah.
That's depressing. Bibi's back and you're going to be in trouble.
If I had a producer, they could come up with that. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, really.
But can Saar say, okay, look, we punish Bibi. I mean, this is the way you say it.
Yeah.
I said I was about punishing Bibi. We punished Bibi. He's chastened. He's grown up. Now he can be prime minister again. That's easy to say. Can he say it?
He can say something else. He can say, listen, we're facing an existential threat. This is, I got to put my differences aside with this man. And by the way, I'm also going to be prime minister in a rotation government that I wouldn't be prime minister in under any circumstance. So there's going to be some quid pro quo here. And who knows, maybe in that rotation agreement, Gideon would be prime minister first and Bibi second. There are all sorts of possible combinations. I personally don't think we're going to elections right now. I do think that the Netanyahu-led opposition can put together an alternative government.
Goodness, I hope. This is a crazy government. This is the craziest coalition I have seen. I don't follow some of the smaller countries in Europe where they have 8 parties in a coalition, but this is the craziest coalition ever.
It is a very wide coalition. In many ways, it's a great coalition. It's the first coalition in which an Arab party and an Arab Islamist party played a major role. The left sat with the right, the lions with the lambs. But the problem is that every time they had a real issue, they couldn't get a consensus together.
No, the lion didn't eat the lamb, but they all broke for the hills. Michael Oren, it's good to have you in the United States. Follow him on Twitter, Dr. Michael Oren, for the latest on what's going on in Israel and vis-a-vis Iran. It's a critical moment. I'm coming back hour 2 on this Friday edition of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Joined now by the poet laureate of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Tarzana Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Hugh. Some reflection on this month's issues. Before mankind had learned to dance or even sing a tune, we mapped the months by measuring the phases of the moon. And as the year progresses and contingencies were planned for, the names of months became bound up in all the things they stand for. April is the month that has been designated greed. That's when we pay the IRS more money than they need. I gather all my paperwork, and when I do the math, I find that April also is the month we honor wrath. November stands for gluttony. Oh, how the world is bleakened when we all eat incessantly across a 4-day weekend. August is the month for sloth, warm weariness profound, and something that we poets pursue the whole year round. December is the month new car commercials pay a visit. We see those giant bows, and the envy is exquisite. I live and I let live. I wouldn't think of being rude. Gracious coexistence is a goal to be pursued. Name a month for leadership, or name it for success. Name it for affection. I think we'd all say yes. But now I understand how the apocalypse begins, when we name our months in honor of the 7 deadly sins. That's What Goeth Before a Fall by Tarzana Joe.
Isn't January the month of success, Joe?
I used to live near a town called Lake Success, and I thought I only moved to Lake Success, Long Island, I would really be a winner, but never could afford it.
There is a Lake Success in Long Island?
Lake Success, Long Island. What a planned community, like Irvine.
Well, I just think Lake Success and Irvine and Reston, a very planned community. Joe, thank you. That will be available at TarzanaJoe.com. Are you open for business in this early summer season?
Absolutely. I'm on my East Coast swing, family vacation, but emails are always welcome.
Poets never rest, right?
That's right. Except during August, this month for sloth.
The month for sloth. Go find him at TarzanaJoe at Reagan.com for all your poetry needs. Rates are reasonable and not yet inflated. Although I can't really sure if I'm, can I say that, Joe?
Well, there's a lot of gas and what.
Yeah, I mean, if you're driving around on vacation, those rates may be going up, America. TarzanaJoe at Reagan.com. Lock in your poem today. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.